VHS files contain spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Is there something in particular I can help you find?
Beetlejuice.
No. Don't even say that name. You don't want to see that movie.
Beetlejuice.
No, I'm telling you, you're going to get more than you bargained for.
Beetlejuice.
All right. Welcome to the VHS files.
It's showtime.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VHS files, episode 6. How's everybody doing tonight, Jenny?
Great.
Jason? Jason, one more time. Sorry, I having a little technical difficulty there.
I'm doing just fine. It's showtime, bitches.
That's right. Eric, how you doing?
I am doing well. Let's review a film.
Well, that's exactly what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. And as I said, we're on episode 6, and that's the number. That's the number most people hit, where they hit it and then they quit it.
Hit it and quit it.
I've just done a little research, and typically people get to about episode 6 and just sort of lose interest. So we're going to get over that hump, and that's starting tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
That brings us to our announcement that we are quitting the podcast.
That's right.
Well, I was just wondering if we were still talking about the episode, the whole hit it and quit it. I didn't know if that's what we were talking about. Making sure we're talking about episodes and podcasts here.
Well, tonight we are talking another childhood favorite. It seems like that's just, the theme we got going on here at the VHS files. And we're talking Beetlejuice.
From the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Adam and Barbara are
Ghosts.
What's the good of being a ghost if you can't frighten people away?
their house is being haunted by the living,
Maybe the house could use a little remodeling.
and they can't scare them into leaving.
They're dead. It's a little late to be neurotic.
So they're calling on Beetlejuice,
Beetlejuice.
who's no ordinary ghost.
You don't want his help.
Can you be scary?
What do you think of this?
Now, the party's over.
He wants somebody out of the house.
Directed by Tim Burton, Beetlejuice was released on March 30th in 1988. Had a budget of $15 million. Did a gross box office of 74.2 total. Was released among the likes of Hairspray,
I love Hairspray.
Serpent in the Rainbow, Wes Craven classic,
Oh, good movie.
Police Academy 5, Miami Beach,
Oh, yes.
one of the best ones. Not. Action Jackson. Has anybody seen Action Jackson besides me and Jason? I know Jason's seen it.
No.
Oh, I've seen it. Dude, you got to love Carl Weathers, man.
We're definitely going to talk Action Jackson one of these days. And Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen, Young Guns, came out as well. So,
Ooh, that's a good one.
yes.
I think that's probably the best of the ones you just said. I love the Young Guns movies.
I even like Young Guns 2 quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I love
been
that Bon
ages since
Jovi
I've seen
soundtrack.
so this was released in 1988. So, Mr. Eric, take us back in time. Tell us what was cool in 1988.
We're sending you back in time.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Well, Josh, instead of cool things that happened in 1988, I'm going to tell you about dumb things that happened in 1988.
All
There's
right.
a lot of stupid
little change of
things
pace.
happened. Yeah, this is the stupid edition of Back in Time. Milli Vanilli drops Girl, You Know It's True to wild success. Michael Dukakis thought it would be cool to do a photo op in a tank, which backfired. And it was a dumb idea, and he lost. George Lucas gave a speech to Congress about the need to protect films from being altered. Then proceeded to alter Star Wars repeatedly. Doves were released during the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, but that tradition ended when some of the doves landed in the Olympic flame cauldron and were incinerated in front of everyone.
Oh.
Ooh, squab for everybody.
Here's a stupid one, extra stupid. Cosmopolitan magazine ran an article stating that women had no chance of contracting HIV from sex with a man because HIV could not be transmitted in missionary position. That is not true. Listeners, that is not true. And finally, somehow 13% of Americans surveyed thought the moon was made of cheese. So I guess they were like our flat earthers. I don't know. So,
either that or from Wisconsin.
Those moon cheesers, you know.
Those damn moon cheesers. You don't hear much from them these days.
No.
It's more the flat earthers. Yeah. So that's 1988. Just a lot of great stupid things.
I made a little note here because Miss Audrey Hepburn, the actress, is one of Jenny's favorites, if not favorite actress. And she was appointed a UNICEF Special Ambassador, Goodwill Ambassador, on March 9th of 1988. And if you were into music whatsoever in the 80s, you would have been affected by a band named Van Halen. And I just wanted to take a second and say R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen. Jason and I are musicians, and Van Halen was a big, big part of our of what made us who we are as musicians. I still jam Van Halen to this day. 1984 and the self-titled debut are two of my favorite records, and Eddie Van Halen was absolutely a genius when it comes to guitar. I mean, Jason's a guitar player. I'm sure he influenced everyone. And, any of these bands today that are tapping on their necks and doing the finger tapping and all that stuff. I mean, that was all Eddie Van Halen who made that popular. So
I still to this day have not mastered that. It's just watching him as a kid. Like I even made a post on our Facebook thing about watching Eddie Van Halen on MTV and just like, how does this man do this? And, you're a young kid, you don't have a guitar yet. So it was always the broom jumping around the house, when Jump came on, anything like that. It was like, oh, I want to be Eddie Van Halen. It's great. And, I mean, I've always been a Van Halen fan, Van Halen or Van Hagar. They were still both great to me because the constant was always Eddie. The man took things that Jimmy had done back during his days, and he literally picked that torch up and just kept carrying guitar to further outreaches of space and beyond, done things that people still do to this day and have not mastered.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was a composer as well as a great guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, he he's got his famous trademark guitar. He actually built that guitar. He got the sound from building that guitar and tweaking it over the years. So, I mean, that's one reason he has such a distinct sound, along with his amplification and the pedals he used and stuff like that. And but yeah, I mean, you're not going to get. I don't think you're going to get anybody quite like Eddie Van Halen moving forward. So, rest in peace,
for sure,
Eddie Van Halen. But let's talk. Well, I mean, Eddie Van Halen.
I got one more.
What?
I got one more. Since we're in the world of rock and stuff like that, of that year, 1988, the best metal album, I would say maybe number 2 in their whole thing, Injustice for All came out that year, dude.
Okay.
Come on. Metallica, man. Come on. We got to mention the Metallica. I mean, geez, 1988. Everybody knows that song from that album. So, man, we got
Oh, no. Oh, no. The soundboard has made its first appearance.
Oh, Josh has a new toy, everyone.
So
He just says the reason Josh is not a fan because he played bass in the band I was in, and that album lacks bass through the whole thing. There is no bass. That's
not it. That's not it whatsoever. I'm just kind of over Metallica at this point. They've been around too long. They just need to disappear, in my opinion.
Well, that was pretty much about the end of the golden age.
Yeah.
And then it went on some, but I just had
There's
to have
definitely
that.
2 eras of Metallica.
Yeah. That was in my
You
notes.
can be a
of
fan
for
of one and not
1980.
the other.
That is true. Very true.
Yeah, they definitely split shortly after that. Split their fan base shortly after that. So
Split their pants.
So let's get into Beetlejuice. Stars Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Jeffrey Jones, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder making her first big screen appearance, and Mr. Michael Keaton portraying Beetlejuice. And we start Beetlejuice with something that I want to bring up right away. Danny Elfman doing the score, and the opening score to this movie sets the tone so well. And as soon as that music cues up and it starts doing the overpass over the model of the town, I'm on board. I'm already on board.
And the model stuff is so great throughout this entire thing, and I love that it just comes in winding through the town, and setting the stage for what's to come.
Yeah.
Well, when that shot first starts, I think it's the actual town.
Yeah,
like the real town, because you see the house up on the hill. I mean, if not, that is the best model ever made for that time in 1988. But yeah, you start out, and then next thing you know, as a kid when I saw this movie, you have to wait. Are we real? Or is that a real bread truck? No, that's a fake bread truck. But yeah,
there's times throughout this movie where you have to
pay attention.
Kind of, well, outside of the story, you wonder yourself, is that a miniature? That's a miniature, right? And then
so much.
Well, I mean, this is the time when they were still working quite a bit with miniatures to do effects and
there are a lot of miniatures in this movie that aren't supposed to be miniature, but then there's also miniatures in this movie that are supposed to be miniatures, and you have to figure out which is this a miniature, and I'm not supposed to think it's a miniature. Gets a little complicated.
How many times does Eric say miniature in this episode? You may win a prize. Let us know.
We'll need a counter in the corner. Yeah.
I just love that it's a movie technique in a movie. Like they're saying, like, look, this is how we do this because this is a model, and we do that for for other movies. I think it's really clever.
Yeah, it's a great little game that they get to play with the entire time. Yeah.
And it got me wondering, because in recent years we've had Hereditary come out, and I don't know if you've seen The Lodge, a newer horror movie, came out after Hereditary, but both of those have similar openings where you're going through this miniature and seeing a house laid out and everything, and it really reminded me of watching Beetlejuice reminded me of that, and I was like, oh, they did this 35 years ago, and I forgot all about it.
Yeah, and you get it a couple other more times recently, like Sharp Objects had the little dollhouse, which they kind of play with a little bit, and what was the other one? I can't think of the other one. Anyway, but yes, I've seen that a few times, like you say, Hereditary, and yeah.
But yeah, I love the overhead shot and finding the house, and it's the music along with going over the model and then setting the tone of seeing the spider coming up over the roof. It just makes it all that much more funny, because it's. I remember, like, starting out with this movie. This is one of the very first movies I remember going to the theater to see.
That's what I was about to ask. I want to know, did Eric and Jenny see this as a child? Because it's comedy, but it's got some horror to it, and I was wanting to know if the two of them saw this as a child or later, like teenage years. So I'm pretty sure me and Josh saw it not too long after it came out. I have a story about it, but I want to hear from them too.
Yeah, I definitely saw this one as a kid, and I remember loving Beetlejuice. I watched the cartoon, the Beetlejuice cartoon that spun off of this. I remember watching that on Saturday mornings. And yeah, this was, I think, one of the early, quote unquote horror type things that I had seen. And I loved it. I loved all the effects in it and all the death stuff and all the, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's
Jenny.
Yeah, I absolutely saw this when I was a kid. First introduction to Tim Burton. And I asked my mom last night, how did you let me watch this when I was a kid? Because this doesn't seem like the kind of movie that I should have been allowed to see. And she said, well, we did our best. Sometimes it slipped through.
This one's really relatable to Ghostbusters in that aspect, because it's got a very family tone, and but there's some underlying things that I'll get to here later that are like,
not so underlining things.
Yeah.
The 11-year-old Jason was still trying. What's going on? What is this thing about Dante's Inferno, or what is this going?
Yeah.
What's it mean? But he has the thing sticking out of him. What is he talking about? But I can remember going back. This is probably my earliest memory that I know of actually seeing this movie in the theater. That's why I remember I was 11 when it came out, and I remember seeing this movie actually in the theater. No VHS, no having to wait to record it off TV. My mom actually and stepdad actually took me to go see this at a small theater here close to where I live now. Theater's no longer there, but I remember just staring at the screen the whole entire time. And we'll get to them later, but there's times I was actually scared.
Yeah,
I mean it's a lot of comedy, but there's some jump scares in a sense that frightened me as a child, and I think I remember having some nightmares a couple of times about shrimp. But and I love shrimp, but man, it was like, you go to a restaurant, you pick them up like, oh wait, I don't know if I want this one. Can I just get a hamburger? I don't want any shrimp. So, but I say out of all the movies we've been talking about so far, I didn't have to wait to see this on a rental or wait for it to be on cable. I actually got to see this one in the theater, and it was definitely an enjoyable and memorable experience.
Now, were you aware of it and wanted to go see it?
Well, again, my mom, she's listened to these podcasts. She's like, you're making me sound like a bad mother that I let my child go and see all these horrible movies on TV and whatever. And I'm like, but it made me the person I am today. And look what I'm doing. We're talking about it on podcasts about it. And, she was a great mom. But no, I mean, I've seen it because on the trailer, it looks funny. It's a comedy. And my mom loved horror and comedy. And she saw this and she loved Michael Keaton, like Mr. Mom and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. She loved Michael Keaton. So that's why we went to see it. And, I think it was me and my little brother went with her to see it. But yeah, I mean, I watched it. But yeah, there were parts I was probably in the seat, head up against mom going, oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. We're cool. We're going to laugh for a few minutes and then other things. But it was definitely a movie I will remember and I still love to this day.
Yeah. My first memory of going to the movies is I have two. It's Harry and the Hendersons and Beetlejuice. And we've determined that Harry and the Hendersons came out first. So it had to have been that one. But I distinctly remember this one because I don't remember knowing anything about it. I know. Kind of similar to your situation, Jason. My mom was really into some of the Michael Keaton movies before this. I remember Mr. Mom was a staple in my house. But going to see this, I didn't even know that was the guy in Mr. Mom because of the makeup and everything.
Yeah. And
my mom took me to see it, and I had no idea what we were going to see, and I wasn't very happy about it. I can't remember. I just remember not being happy. And I didn't know what movie we were going to see and came out pleasantly surprised. I loved it. And it's one of my very first fond memories of going to a movie theater and watching a movie and coming out very excited about what I just saw. So does anybody want to go ahead and give their over-under on what Jason did in this movie? Like what Jason went and did in Texas because he was bored and needed to figure out how to do something.
It's our new segment here at
It's got to be a seance, right? Try a seance.
He tried to
Yeah, he did the dance, learned all the moves.
Maybe. I don't know if we get to that point in the movie, I'll point it out. But watching, this movie's Tim Burton has definitely a wild imagination. So I don't know if there is much in this movie that I might have done, but we may hit it and I may have a memory. So. I'll hold on to it. Let's see what the bet goes down to.
So we get into this and we're introduced to very young Alec Baldwin.
Baby Alec Baldwin.
And
infant Alec Baldwin.
Gina Davis. And was she wearing a wig in this? There was one part in particular I was like, her hair looks good, but on top it looked like they had put like a hairpiece over.
I don't know.
I don't know. I noticed it when we watched it. So they're on vacation, spending their vacation at home.
Staycation. This must have been the first staycation.
Staycation from the hardware store.
Now, this leads to a lot of why I don't know why I loved this movie so much, because a lot of it is very adult themed. Mm-hmm. Them renovating their house and taking their vacation, and then the cousin or whoever she is that comes to try and talk them into selling their house, which, okay, this lady is ridiculous. I got an offer on the house. If somebody came to me and was like, I got an offer on your house, I'd be like, fuck you.
It's not for sale.
Yeah, you
And
can tell they.
she's
Go
also
ahead,
big implication of infertility from
Oh.
the realtor, whoever, towards Gina Davis's character, and it was so uncool. It was
Yeah,
like a
there are
family should live here, and she's like, ooh, like stab
Definitely
you
some
in the heart.
boundary issues
Yeah.
with
Uh-huh.
this lady. Is this lady like related to them in any
Yeah, I
way?
think she said she was related to. The
She
people.
says she's family, but I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I feel like she was just saying that.
yeah.
But she's not just a random realtor. I mean, she shows up after they die too. So
Yeah.
like, is she a family member, like extended family? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
she's a bit much, and
yeah. There's that brief exchange between Winona Ryder and her when she gives her the skeleton key. She goes, "They were family. I was devastated," and it's like, "No, you weren't. You got to sell this house that you kept trying to talk them into selling." Just,
Yeah.
I found her to be very ridiculous.
I want to know what percent she got on that.
Well, I
For
heard.
selling it.
Not the commission.
Well, what was the price on the
commission.
house? It was $250,000 or something.
something ridiculously low like
Which
that?
in '88, I mean, that would have been a
lot.
whole lot of money.
twice that
Well,
much. Or
well, that's a pretty good sized house when that shot
Mm-hmm.
comes in and all that, and the land and everything. But hey, speaking of the house, did anybody feel like that house reminded them of another famous house from another movie?
no.
No, but
Come on.
you just reminded me of something I didn't talk about in the Friday the 13th
Are
episode.
you talking about Psycho?
Yes, it looks like the Bates home.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's up on the hill,
Yeah.
above the rest of the town. And I was just like, and you know, it's funny. I mean, how many times have we all seen Beetlejuice? That just hit me on this, watch to do the podcast. It was like, dude, that looks like the Bates home.
There might be some influence there.
It
for sure.
has a little bit. I mean, it's his Tim Burton, and he's always been that
Inspiration.
way. Yeah, I
he
can see
he
that.
nods. He makes a nod to Night of the Living Dead as well in this movie.
Yes,
So
true,
Yeah.
very true.
So we're watching this last night, and they run into town to grab something for the house or whatever, and then they swerve to hit a dog, and they crash through this bridge.
They swerve to avoid hitting
Well,
the dog.
right, to avoid it. They swerve to hit the dog. Well, in hindsight, they
their
probably
punishment.
should have tried to hit the dog, since the dog ultimately killed them. Now, did the realtor lady hire the dog to kill them so she could sell the house?
a highly trained canine.
I think she did.
I'll hook you up with T-bones for the rest of your life.
But just
Well, we get the first of many visual gags.
Yeah.
You know, first it's fun that they kind of set it up as they're driving into town. You see the dog, you see the bridge, you see all the pieces that are going to hit them.
yeah.
But that's fun. But the dog on the piece of wood that's keeping the car from falling.
What-
That's
which is
like,
so
it's
unlikely.
Such a silly gag.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and they do a lot of these kind of gags throughout the movie, and it immediately sets the sense of humor up. It's like, okay, don't take this movie too seriously.
Yeah.
We're just having fun here.
Well-
And speaking of the Night of the Living Dead thing, I noticed her name is Barbara as well. So that
They're going to get you, Barbara. Did you just say that too, Jason? That was
Yes,
weird.
it
It
does
sounded
say-
like an echo.
Yeah.
It's
But-
in stereo.
But apparently their death was supposed to be a lot more gruesome, and the original script for this was supposed to be a lot more bloody, and things were going to be a lot different. Yeah, Beetlejuice was supposed to be like a murderous rapist.
yeah.
And he was a winged demon.
Which honestly, once we get to some of the meat of the movie,
It's pretty
that's
close.
still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the rapey stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be interesting to see a remake of this movie in that tone. Like, instead of trying to remake a comedy,
Something actually dark and
like make a really scary horror version of Beetlejuice. That could be a pretty cool.
something tells me it would end up being more like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake that happened that was just too serious,
Oh yeah.
We can talk about the sequel that was supposed to get made for this at the end. I think that's I've got some idea, I've got some thoughts about that, and we'll talk about it after we get done with the movie, but could that crash have killed them? I mean,
I don't know. That's what I was watching.
Oh,
Go ahead, Eric. Oh no, I was going to say that is like the deepest little creek in a town ever. I mean, they fell off there. I mean, it's very shallow. I mean, I think they could have crawled out the back of the car or something, or maybe it knocked them out when they hit.
Maybe
I don't
they
know.
just drowned.
And then they drowned slowly.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
They don't appear damaged like the
Yeah.
other dead. So
Exactly.
I think they drowned.
Yeah.
You have to assume they just drowned, and that's why they don't have, wounds and whatnot.
Very true.
This is my second biggest fear, is driving off of a bridge into a body of water and being trapped and drowning.
What's the first?
Being buried alive.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
It all has to do with not being able to breathe.
Yeah.
I think I think both of those are kind of high up on everybody's list. I think.
Yeah, that sounds
But like,
pretty scary.
no, it's like a serious fear. Like,
So does this upset you when this happens?
yeah, I tensed up.
Yeah.
I remember being upset when I realized they were dead as a kid watching it. Like, that was a memory that came back to me where I was like, oh no, like they died. I sort of realized it as they were, that's what the viewer does. But yeah, I remember that being sad. I remember being sad about that.
That's another thing I think as a kid that it never really dawned on me. Like, I got that they were dead, but I didn't get this whole, like, I was just along for the ride when they were figuring all of this out and finding the handbook for the recently deceased and going.
Disease.
Josh has on his table right now. Very cool.
It's my little. It's just a blank notebook, but I love the aesthetic of it. And but this is a very unique portrayal of the afterlife, quote unquote. Because this is the first time I'd ever really seen anything that was like, no, you don't go to heaven or hell. This is just, they briefly touch on this. They spend they're to spend 125 years in their house. Like, what is it that constitutes where you spend this time in your afterlife? Well, it's kind of weird.
And also, I think their motivations are a little weak for this haunting, for this whatever has happened. Their unwillingness to leave or move on. They go to pretty extreme lengths to just get these people out of their house. That was one thing I kind of noticed this time. Like, getting to Beetlejuice was extremely reckless.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand why they're stuck in their house for 125 years, because they didn't die in their house.
Right.
They died under the bridge. Why aren't they haunting the bridge for 125 years?
Well, that would be a boring movie.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting under the bridge for 2
But I
hours.
definitely understand, and that there's a lot of questions posed in this movie. Watching it as an adult now, that we'll talk about when we get to them. But there's a lot they leave up in the air in this that they don't really try to explain to you.
Well, going back, it was a good point that it's exploring the afterlife in a sort of obviously whimsical and comedic way, but also sort of portraying it as boring, or there isn't a heavenly light in this movie that they get to move on to later. There isn't, it's a bit bleak, and it's more about finding happiness with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
they
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, they touch on that too, because there's this scene they shot where they go to the base or to the attic and they're cleaning, and he's like, "You got cabin fever?" And he's like, "What if this is heaven?" And she says, "If it was heaven, there wouldn't be dust on everything." So they lightly graze on where they're at as dead people in the afterlife. Like, I got to spend 125 years just sitting in this house. I could think that might get a little boring.
Yeah,
I think they're cute together too. Like,
yes,
yeah.
They established that in the beginning, and
dude, that's
before
like
they
relationship
died,
goals right there.
Yeah,
Just the two of them.
Yeah,
that is
they just love hanging out together, and that gets you on their side immediately, even though their motivations might be a little murky. But
And in that scene, they're actually in the model, because we get established that Alec Baldwin's character is making a model of the whole town, and it's pretty morbid that they're setting up their own funeral in the cemetery and stuff.
Yeah,
get it just right. Do we want to be here or over here? Oh, and at least when you did find out that when you die, you better have known how to operate your stereo, because the handbook for the recently deceased reads like stereo instructions.
Yeah.
So obviously you have better been a fan of Radio Shack back then if you want to have a successful afterlife.
and if you're setting up little miniatures, you probably would go to Radio Shack all the time for
You
little
would think,
light bulbs
yeah.
and wires and whatnot.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. And then, so they're in their
We'd like
house.
to thank our sponsor, Radio Shack.
Radio Shack.
Are they even in business anymore? I think they're finally shut them all down. I think.
But so they're in their house, and all of a sudden, people start coming in, and we're introduced to the Dietzes. Now, you got Catherine O'Hare, who is amazing in this movie.
She is perfection.
I've
here.
never seen her in anything before this, but this is where this woman left an impression on me. She's terrible. in this movie.
love
Like
her.
she's great in the movie, but she's a terrible person.
Yeah.
I
She's
don't
so
know
good
if
in
she's 100% a terrible person. She's a fish out of water.
Yeah.
And who does not want to be out of the water. Like she wants to go back in.
Well, we
immediately.
also
Definitely part of
have-
high society. You know, pinky out. We're not supposed to be out here in the woods per se.
Yeah, and she's a stepmother
Yep.
Yeah.
all of a sudden too, which, you know, again, like last week with Lost Boys, we have a non-traditional family, you know, trying to make things work. And you've got Lydia, who doesn't like her stepmother, and they're in a new place, and dad's trying to find peace.
And you've got her dad always calling her mother. It's like one of those dads that's just being very pushy about the relationship. I noticed that in this.
Yeah.
And then we get introduced to Winona Ryder. I think a lot of kids my age and teenagers fell in love when they saw this movie. Jenny and I were talking a lot about this last night, about how she was just like your quintessential like goth girl.
She's the OG goth girl.
Yeah, she like inspired a generation of goth girls.
But that's what we were talking about is, do you think she had the intent of becoming this super like known as a goth girl? I mean, she did this. I'm not sure if she really did much else that portrayed her as quote unquote goth. But that's
She always had kind of darker characters.
Like
Heathers and Pump Up the Volume and stuff like that, with the exception of Edward Scissorhands, where it's like dramatically the opposite of the dark aesthetic. Like, let's have blonde hair and put her in white. And it was like kind of like a rebellion against that, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I mean, she's great in this. We did the math yesterday, and I think she would have been 16 when they were shooting this, which makes the end of the movie all that much more creepy.
Did you happen to see the actresses that turned down this role?
I actually didn't get a chance to do a whole lot of research on this one.
Well,
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, Brooke Shields, Justine Bateman, Molly Ringwald, Jennifer Connelly, Diane Lane, Lori Loughlin.
Yeah.
Whoa!
All turned it down.
All turned it down.
Well,
Damn.
Lori Loughlin had a
Lewis
full
auditioned
house.
for us.
Oh yeah, and what was Delia was originally, they were trying to cast Angelica Houston for her.
That's right. And
but she got sick or something and couldn't do it. So and then he got.
And while we're on this, Burton's first choice for Beetlejuice was Sammy Davis Jr.
I did hear about that.
I've heard that for quite a number of years about Sammy Davis Jr. in there, and I'm just like, but then you see what we have now, and you're like, how was that possible?
Yeah, it would have been a very different movie. I think.
Man, I love me some Sammy Davis Jr., but how?
I'm imagining Sammy Davis Jr. doing the jerk off motion now.
But it would
don't like it.
But it would be Beetlejuice to the whole movie with like a martini glass in his hand. Hey, I was like, that's all.
Beetlejuice would have been a whole lot cooler.
Yeah. Pack.
But in the introduction to the Dietzes, you meet the dad, Charles, who's a real estate mogul, and then there's two aspects about when they get introduced that, as a kid, I just did not understand what was going on. Number one was her sculptures. I was like, what the hell is this? This woman is so like infatuated with as far as these sculptures
been exposed to modern art at this age.
Right. Modern art, yeah, totally. And I always thought she was a collector of them when I was a kid. I didn't realize she made them. Yeah. She says I made that. I don't know. In my memory, it was that she just collected art. But yeah, they're her artwork,
right? And they're very weird. I mean, you can tell that this is stuff Tim Burton handpicked. Just really weird, off the wall looking stuff. But I love the mover guy's response to her saying that this is my sculpture, and put it on the table, and he just tosses it like he does
sideways. Yeah,
just
doesn't even stand it up right.
But other than the sculptures, the other thing I did not understand was the character Otho.
I still don't understand Otho.
Well, at that time, I had no idea what an interior designer was. I was confused as hell because Delia is so engulfed in working with Otho. Like I was under the impression that her and Otho were a thing, and Charles was just some other guy. So I was very confused by the dynamic of what was going on here. And I guess it comes from the New York sense of things, of having your own interior decorator and all of that. But she
has to express herself.
Yeah. And I love that Charles loves the house. Winona Ryder loves the house, and they don't want to change it. But Delia is like, we're gutting this bad boy. If I can't, I love what's the line she says? If I can't gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take it with me.
Yeah,
she's
very
so
convincing.
great.
Yeah,
she is.
That, and then the other line was a little gasoline and a blowtorch. It'd be no problem. I'm like, geez, she's just going to burn the house down. Just wipe it clean to the foundation. Let's build a new one.
Yeah. Well, she is a sculptor. She probably works with fire and whatnot. Those metalworks and everything. And you can tell that Otho is clearly just trying to drain this family of as much money as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, you mean Charles is a real estate mogul or whatever? He's got the money to burn, and then now he's got his new New York wife, and she has things she has to have. So he got Otho, and he's just like, oh, money, signs everywhere. Let's just keep pumping it.
I love just a moment with the dad. What's the dad's name? I'm trying to remember.
Charles.
Okay. When he's reading the magazine and all the little subscription inserts are falling out. That's such an 80s thing,
great.
80s, 90s thing that just made me laugh when I saw it.
I distinctly remember Jenny and I cracking up a little bit when that was happening. We were watching it too. Yeah. But they come in and they start tearing this. I mean, just picking this house apart and talking about how bad the style is. And I can imagine this could be where this part of the afterlife, or maybe this is hell for them, is you've got people openly saying how bad your style
she's
is,
insulting her hard work.
It's like you finally get to see the things people would have said about you now that you're gone.
Yeah, if
they're
didn't
getting
know
to
you.
experience it firsthand.
Yep.
So I found that's what I took away from that whole scene this time. I was like, man, that would suck to just have people right in front of you just blasting your style and telling you your house just looks terrible, and that would piss me off and make me want to chop my own head off. And
it's so funny though. They're going through the house and they're talking about colors and what they're going to do, and they're commenting on the closet size and how small it is, and they walk through the bathroom. It's a split second. They just go, okay, and it's a huge bathroom.
Yeah,
it's massive, and she's just like, all right, like this isn't worth talking about.
Yeah, she makes some comment about the bathroom just being like,
oh, an indoor outhouse.
Yes,
that's what it was.
And it's massive. It's a great bathroom.
Yeah, most people would kill for that size bathroom, especially coming from New York. You'd think that would be something she'd be like, whoa. But who knows where they were living in New York.
She must have had a big penthouse somewhere or something.
Yeah. But now this is Tim Burton's second feature film coming off of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I really never realized just how much this is a very tight blend of the Pee-wee Big Adventure style of things and Tim Burton interjecting his gothic horror stuff together. And I got a lot of Pee-wee's Big Adventure out of this. Did anybody else? Like the score and the little bit of the goofiness from the family and whatnot. I was getting major Pee-wee vibes.
Yeah, I can certainly see the family stuff and the gag stuff too. Just a sense of humor.
Yeah, even a little bit of the scariness stuff, like from Pee-wee with the whole clown scene when he's having a dream.
Yeah,
it's kind of creepy.
Actually, Large Marge is kind of reminds me of when Beetlejuice's face. Yeah. You see it from the back, but when he tries to scare them.
But can you be scary?
That is a little.
Well, that's coming up.
Yeah. So after this, they try to run out, and we see the wasteland for the first time.
Do we want to talk about this now or later when they bring it up?
I mean,
because the Wasteland
there now.
Yeah, I mean the Wasteland, like, because Jenny did not catch this, and I'm wondering if anybody else. I mean, Jason, you probably know, but it's Saturn that they go to.
I did not know that. Why
So
is it Saturn?
I actually didn't know that it was Saturn. I did not even realize.
Is it
that.
Saturn?
Okay.
Is it?
Well, no, there is a scene when we meet Beetlejuice. I want to talk about it then, but yeah,
Okay,
when they
let's just talk about the look of it.
Yeah, I mean,
because
the visual effects of it don't really hold up too well now.
Well,
but I love the look. I love the look of it.
We get some of the worst effects, in this area of the film. But I love the stop motion sandworm.
Yes.
I love the yellow sand.
Mm-hmm.
The just the insane colors. Just the design of everything makes up for the limitations of the effects for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tim Burton has such a unique, vision that is just so unique to him. It's just bizarre,
Yeah.
I love just the yellow sand. I made a note of yellow sand. I'm like, yellow sand. It's so good.
And
Why is it yellow? I don't know.
The yellow sand plays key in what I want to talk about when we meet Beetlejuice too, and they talk about the Saturn stuff. So
you got that little bit of Beetlejuice there when he's kind of in his coffin.
That's your first little, he's looking at the paper trying to find a job. I think that's a nice little like hint at where we're going with his character. But
for work,
they decide that they're going to try and scare the Dietzes out themselves. And I wanted to talk about the fact that was this PG or PG-13? Did anybody look?
It's PG.
It's PG. So again, we've got a movie in the 80s like has straight up decapitation, faces being ripped off, and later the word fuck is used. PG. I mean,
yeah, man.
It's so crazy.
It's the 80s.
And we're so nowadays we let that stuff slide. I mean, you've got F-bombs and whatnot on national TV now, but even back then it was like, oh, we'll let this slide. But then they got
they didn't have PG-13 back then,
right?
I mean, it's stuff like that is why PG-13 was made.
Yeah, well, Temple of Doom in particular, I think, is what started the PG-13 rating.
Yeah, Spielberg had something to do with that.
Yeah. So, but I love when she rips her face off and the animation of that. I love when she's got the head cut off of Adam. It's all great, but they don't see them.
Yeah. And
this is another thing that I've got questions about in this movie. And as we move forward and where we're going with the Dietzes and the Maitlands, like when they get to that point of where they need to really scare the Dietzes and trying to get them out of the house, like how did they figure out how to let them see them, or do they ever really? I want to touch on that again when we get to the scene where they're meeting with Juno.
Well, Juno tells them that they need to practice.
Yeah.
So I think they're just new at this, and they they do things that are seen, and they do find a way to interact
right
with physical objects and things like that. But I think they're just new at it.
And speaking of Juno, I didn't get it till today. I did not realize she is the grandma from Mars Attacks.
Oh yeah, she is in Mars Attacks. Yeah,
that's probably one of the Tim Burton movies I've seen the least. I don't remember much about that one.
I didn't even realize that was her, and then I saw it today. And because he always uses the same actors in a lot of his movies.
Oh yeah,
and I was just like, that's the grandma from Mars Attacks. Oh my god.
Well, this is probably where it starts when I as a kid and started watching more movies really started to notice when these certain groups of characters or actors were together in a movie.
Well, that actress was also one of the better known actresses in the film at the time. I'm forgetting her name, but I think she was pretty well known for older work and stuff like that.
For some reason, I
convinced her to come on. It wasn't.
For some reason, I was thinking she was in Grease, like one of the teachers in Grease or something, but I don't think she was. I didn't get a chance to actually confirm or deny that, but I think I'm wrong. But for some reason,
I read about that and I'm forgetting it, so we should move away from that. We don't know. I don't want to be wrong.
So, but they got to figure out how to get the Dietzes out of the house. So they go to the handbook. I love the flyer they see for Beetlejuice. Unhappy with there's the thing on it says unhappy with eternity. Are you unhappy with eternity?
Yeah.
Well, I never really thought about it before this viewing because I haven't seen this movie in probably over 10 years. He's like the opposite of a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's a bioexorcist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a bioexorcist. That's pretty cool.
Yep. We're
disgraced bioexorcist.
Yeah.
Okay. and still to this day, all right, tell me if any of you guys know. The name of the movie is Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what we get in the movie.
Right.
Well, no.
It's never spelled that way in the movie.
Yeah, it is not spelled that way at all.
Well,
they pronounce it that way, but I remember as a kid, I used to think, is this Beetlejuice or Betelgeuse or whatever like that? Put a French Betelgeuse.
Well, Alec Baldwin reads it wrong the first time he reads it, and then they say it right later.
And then that's what got me. I was like, I need an explanation.
Yeah,
it's got to be more marketable.
If anybody's listening, send us this and explain this to me. I'm sorry.
That's got to be the explanation. Is it's just more marketable.
Well, I think the explanation is that people are dumb. Like they wouldn't know how to pronounce that, so they simplified it.
Yeah, they actually had to name the movie Beetlejuice, so you would know how to pronounce the name of this movie and the character.
That's exactly what they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I watched some of the behind the scenes on it, and that's the little bit of research I was able to do on this one. And they had to change the name because it was just going to confuse people.
What was the original name? It was
House Ghost.
Well, yes, there was that, and then they considered
Scared Sheetless.
Scared Sheetless.
Sheetless, yes. Scared
Really?
Yes, those were the. And what was funny was that Tim Burton, when he didn't want House Ghost, and he gave them the, hey, we're just going to call it Scared Sheetless, and Geffen was really like we kind of like that. And he's like, really?
I was kidding.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just kidding. He just, we're going to call it Scared Sheetless.
Well, I pulled a clip of our first introduction to Mr. Beetlejuice. I'm going to play that now, and we can kind of comment on it as it plays.
I love all the giant miniatures.
I love the car salesman look. It's so awesome.
You tired of having your homes blazed violated? You want to get rid of them pesky living critters once and for all? Well, come on down
and being from Texas, I'm personally offended.
Yes, there is. Come on down here, and I want to tell you, I'll do anything. I'll scare them real bad. The point is, folks, I'm going to do anything to get your business. Hell, I'll possess myself if I gotta. Whoa! Whoa! I got these all through me.
I always love this whole little piece.
Hey, Jack, now, you get a free demon possession with every exorcism. You can't beat that, can you? And bring a little parts down here. Hell, we got plenty of snakes and lizards for them to play with. There's no problem with that at all. So, say it once, say it twice, third time's a charm. And remember, I'll eat anything you want me to eat. I'll swallow anything you want me to swallow. So come on down now. Chew on a dog. Ow!
Chew on a dog, man. Chew on a dog.
And Michael Keaton is going just
balls to the wall, dude.
Yeah.
I want to know how many. I want to know how many drinks or a couple of lines of Coke or whatever was going on back then. Because it was the '80s. They partied hard in these movies. And then this man later becomes Batman.
Yeah. I said that to Jenny, and there was a lot of debate about Tim Burton wanting to cast him as Batman. God. And I can see why. Like, if you went to the producers and were like, this is who I want to cast, and they're like, you want this guy to be Batman?
Yeah. You want the Texas car salesman from Beetlejuice guy to be Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but hey, I think still the best Batman. So
yeah,
that'd be another episode.
Yeah, that one should be coming up sooner than later.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But
more comic book movies.
Where are we at? So they get their introduction to Beetlejuice, and they decide they're going to go meet their caseworker, Juno. I love the drawing, the door on the brick.
Oh, yeah. Just draw a door.
Such
No problem.
an awesome little thing. And I think we've seen that in other movies, too. That's got to be something that comes from actual lore or something,
Yeah.
It feels that way.
Well, and they hint at little things here and there too. Later, I mean, they go and they meet this. They get to the waiting room and they pick their number. And the lady at the front desk is telling them, you know, they're going to use up all of their credits with Juno, and they've got 100. This is where we get the 125 years in the house. And she shows that she slit her wrist. And then later, Otho is talking to the girl at the dinner party, and he goes, "You know what happens when you commit suicide? You become a civil servant."
In the afterlife,
In the afterlife, yes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really smart, and I never really dawned on
And
me
Juno
until we
has
watched
the
it.
Slit throat as well.
And I love that her exhale just comes out of the
Dude,
a great.
you know what's
gag.
funny?
Yeah.
It took me years to realize before the exhale that she was walking around with her throat cut.
Yeah.
It took me forever to even notice that. And then, you know, as you get older, it's like, oh, it's cut the whole entire time. Why did I not know? And you think it's just a wrinkle or something, but no, it's just like,
yeah.
Yeah, they kind of save it for the cigarette gag. Like, they don't show it so much.
Right.
And then it really becomes apparent in that shot. And then all the people waiting in the DMV, all the dead people. I loved that as a kid, just like looking in the background, looking for all the different, oh, that guy's got shark. That guy's got bit by a snake. That guy's this. Yeah, love all that. The cigarette guy.
And the imagery
The
here is what
cigarette
really hooked me as a kid watching this.
oh, man.
And just seeing all of this stuff and not really understanding on an adult level how funny this was or what they were trying to convey with all that. Like the guy that was ran over with the tractor or whatever, the big flat guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the filing cabinet guy.
Yeah, like I don't know who came up with that, but it was a great idea, and I'm so glad they did
the
it.
wall.
Yeah,
I know he's a filing. But the main thing is in. I mean, we've already seen a couple things like the whole ripping the face off the severed head makeup job, but those characters in that waiting room the first time, the guy who like burned alive from smoking or whatever, I'm just like, still to this day, I was like, that holds up. I don't care that it is 2020. That holds up. That makeup holds up.
Well, even the girl that's cut in half.
Yes, that is great. And I mean, I believe they won an Oscar for makeup in this movie.
They did, yeah. They would
when it came out. They won an Oscar, and I see why.
Yeah, I can completely see how they did the torso of the girl. What I'm blown away by are the legs, and like they had to have had
laying backwards.
Yeah, they had to have had her laying backwards and then molded something on top. It blew me away watching it this time. I was like, man, they really did well with that, because even with 4K, watching it in 4K, I couldn't tell. You know, it looks really good.
And the aesthetic in the DMV office as they walk through the office, and there's all these dead people working, and they have this makeup. It's very Halloween. Everything about the holiday. You know, like this movie exudes Halloween. It makes sense that he goes on to make Nightmare Before Christmas after this, because it's just like, this man clearly loves Halloween, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
most definitely.
And the makeup, the black lights, all the weird
like the
things.
glowy women who are all blue and I love that.
And the weird, like,
the really red hair, hallways
with the checkered floors and the big
that
crooked
perspective,
doors,
and in the hallways,
all that stuff.
So
is
interesting,
just so neat. When it's a feast for your eyes, and you just get to. As a kid, I just remember looking at every little detail when they sit down and there's people sitting in a movie theater through the window behind them.
Yeah.
And there's like all different weird dead people, red skeleton, white skeleton, there's different stuff. There's just stuff everywhere. It's like in the background, it's so fun.
Yeah. The blue people, I don't know about you guys. You know, I was 11 when I saw this movie. I always had the hots for the receptionist.
I did too, man.
The blue skin, the rare. And then I come to find out while researching this that she is in another movie that I always thought that the woman was so beautiful. And that her name is Patrice Martinez. She's the main girl from Three Amigos.
You know,
I did not know that. And I was like, okay, this makes it now. When I found that out, of course, I had to rewind back to the part where they meet her. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that is totally her. But you can't tell it's her. That's a great makeup job. Again, great makeup. So, but I was like, okay.
I was racking my brain watching it because for some reason, I thought it was Salma Hayek, like a really young Salma Hayek. There for a minute because she kind of has the same similar look. Yeah. But the fact that she is the girl from Three Amigos, and I love Three Amigos, watched it so many times as a kid, and I never put those two together.
Patrice Martinez.
But they get to the house and they find out they've been gone for 3 months, and Juno tells them what they need to be doing, what they need to be practicing. But when they get up to the attic and they start asking about Beetlejuice, I love when she brings it up, or they bring it up, and she's like, and then when she starts telling the story, I've never noticed this before, but as she starts telling this story of Beetlejuice, the lights dim, and then this light just comes up like while she's telling the story. A, I didn't notice it, and B, like Adam and Barbara kind of like look at it as it happens, like, where the hell is this coming from?
They're just as surprised as we are.
She carries her own special effects with her when she tells a story.
So I thought that. And then I love when she exhales and the smoke she just disappears into the smoke.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing we noticed, that some of these people in the afterlife have some cool little magic tricks. I mean, we actually see it at the end of the movie with the Maitlands, but it's like, well, I guess you got to get there as you go through it. Maybe you get these extra powers of disappearing and snapping your fingers and stuff like that.
So, we skipped over this shot, and this is before we actually meet or see Beetlejuice for the first time. But the POV shot of the fly flying around into the model,
I had it right here, dude.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was so creative, and then the close-ups of the fly too look really good. And I don't know. I mean, it had to have been all stop anime stuff they did, but I mean, that fly looks real, as up close real as I think they could get it to look, for sure. But and I also love when they go to the shots of the model and the grass is all just the egg crate, the green egg crate.
I wanted my whole house. So, Kayla said the same thing, Jenny, and I said the same thing. I mean, that grass is amazing, and I always wanted to play on it when he jumps on it and falls down and all that stuff. I love when they dig through it and there's just,
and it's the model.
They stick with it. I mean, it is 100%. They stick that you were in the model.
Same reason I loved all the stuff in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The tiny, or the giant rather, grass and giant ant and the cookie and all that stuff. It's just, it makes your imagination just go crazy when you're
okay. I have one question about the fly scene. Had anybody ever had a Zagnut bar?
No, but it says Clark Zagnut on it, and I think it's just like a offshoot of a Clark bar.
Okay, that's what because I see it and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that candy bar anywhere. I maybe thought it was something to do with a Tim Burton thing, but I didn't know if it was
very well be Tim Burton just going like taking a candy bar from the 50s or 60s or something.
Because he
used to like as a kid.
And that's even funnier when you can see Beetlejuice's hand sticking out of the ground as a miniature. That's just like a little toy Beetlejuice.
I love all the toy. Yeah, all the miniature Beetlejuice is clearly just a toy.
Yeah, just like a G.I. Joe.
It works conceptually anyway. It's so perfect.
So they decide that they've got to go. They're just going to have. They're going to call on Beetlejuice. Now, here's where one of the unanswered questions for me happens: is how the hell did they figure out that it was Beetlejuice? Because you hear them throughout all of this, like Beetle, Geist, Beetle, Geyser, Beetle, Breakfast. They say all the wrong words. And Barbara just all of a sudden says, it's him, Beetlejuice. How did they figure it out?
Maybe they heard about him in the DMV or something.
Maybe. They were there for 3 months.
I'm reaching here. I'm reaching. But they call Beetlejuice here initially, and they really didn't need to.
I think they were still trying to figure it out. So they, at this point, had they done the sheets?
No, y'all skipped that part because you totally missed Eric's line from Night of the Living Dead earlier. So, we went about 2 scenes too far, but
Night of the what?
Yeah, they get in sheets and it doesn't work.
And you get one of the most memorable lines in this movie from Lydia that people have said forever since this. The whole, the why can't people see them? Go ahead, Jenny, give it to us.
I'm strange and unusual.
There you go.
Yes.
And then everybody was like, her, that girl right there.
Exactly.
But, I think
Goth OG.
the reason that they were driven to call on Beetlejuice is the horrible interior decorating that has occurred in the time that they're in the DMV. There's like two redeemable things about the remodel of this house. And one of them is Lydia's room, which is very purple and understated with some very small flower prints on the wall. It's lovely. And then I actually really like their little deck edition thing where it's got kind of the one house shaped panel at the end. And, you know, we see it later in the movie, but like those are the only two things that
the
work.
stone spray paint stuff all over everything.
Oh, why?
All over the banister,
like
all
a
over the
dungeon.
door.
I noticed that. It looks like granite. Like the
it looks like concrete.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's very unique for the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, well, you mentioned the quote from Lydia, I myself am strange and unusual. It's going to bring us to a new little segment we've got here called You're Going to Need a Bigger Quote.
You're going to need a bigger
Quote.
So we've got that one. What are some other quotable lines from this movie? I mean, I didn't have a chance to research the taglines, the official taglines for Beetlejuice, but there's some good lines in this.
Yeah. I said it at the beginning of the podcast. It's showtime.
Yeah, it's showtime. I'm the ghost with the most.
Ghost with the most, baby.
Go ahead, make my millennium. That's a good one.
I do like that one.
We've come for your daughter, Chuck.
And the one we're about to get, to, nice fucking model.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
Well, I've got two here. I like the one from Adam, the Alec Baldwin character. He says, "Barb, honey, we're dead. I don't think we have very much to worry about anymore." That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Otho, he says, "I know just as much about the supernatural as I do about interior design."
And then it gets quiet. Everybody looks at him. But the one that I still use it a lot because it's kind of like he throws it at you like a Jersey, New York accent. It's right before he says "nice fucking model." He goes, "I'm working here."
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I say that almost in a week still to this day. And then of course he kicks a tree. Nice fucking model. But I love that.
That's a great
little
shot
line.
too.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's tree over.
I love that whole little
Amazing
segment, man.
shot.
That left such an impression on me as a kid. Just him acting out, being a big baby and kicking over the tree. Just the fact that he kicked over a tree, I was like, whoa. And then nice fucking, and he grabs his crotch while he says, nice fucking model.
The Michael Jackson crotch grab,
Well, one big thing I noticed, this time, this watch, and I think I'm just getting old, but when I was a kid, I thought Beetlejuice was like the coolest damn dude ever.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Watching him this time, I'm like, he behaves poorly.
Yeah.
He's pretty cringy.
He's crude, and I don't like him. I like the family more now. I'm laughing at the family. Before, when I was a kid, I hated the parents. I just liked Lydia, and of course, you like the couple. And I thought Beetlejuice was so funny, but now I think it's funny more thinking about just Michael Keaton going crazy.
Yeah,
that's funny. But like as far as what's being said and what's being done, it's not as funny as it used to be.
Yeah. I think Beetlejuice kind of reminds me of like a fun, maybe drunk uncle. That's what you hang out with your uncle. He's that one that's the crazy. He doesn't have any kids or anything like that.
He's making
that's wildly inappropriate.
I think that's me. I'm that uncle.
We're just gonna sweep that into the table. Let's not talk about that.
I pulled an audio clip on this one here, and this is I'm just gonna play it.
What are your qualifications?
Well, I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Oh man, yeah, Beetlejuice came out a little bit in that Batman performance for sure.
Oh yeah, that part, in Batman when he meets the Joker, that is total Beetlejuice right there. That is, but that's funny you played that. That's another one of my favorite segments of this whole movie is just that whole, even the stuff before that when he's meeting the Maitlands and everything with talking about being his buddy. Next thing you know, he's wearing the same shirt.
Hey, where's some Podico, man? We even shop at the same store.
And that kind of stuff was what made the cartoon fun. I haven't watched it, but he was always swapping outfits, doing all these kind of crazy bits, kind of like the genie from Aladdin, you know, like
Oh yeah,
just doing like just silly stuff and little bits and jokes all the time.
And it's so funny that went on to be like a kid's cartoon and everything, because like we're talking about, you know, as a kid you thought he was really cool, but watching it now, he is. I mean, he's a bit rapey. He's very, you know, very
total perv, man.
Yeah, I mean, so it's weird that, you know, and I love the fact that he only has 18 minutes of screen time in this whole movie.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? He's
But it makes such an impression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's all he needed.
It was even
He's
going
like
to be
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, it was even going to be shorter because they had to go back after they had tested it for audiences and the stuff after when he's waiting at the DMV. They had to shoot all of that after the movie was pretty much done. They did that in post because they felt like he needed to be in the movie more.
Right, and people didn't want him to be like cursed for eternal damnation necessarily.
Right.
Like he goes back to the DMV and he's in trouble. He gets his head shrunk or whatever. But
yeah,
he's ultimately pretty much fine by the end of the movie.
And I love that they play with that aesthetic with like the toy line that came out. I had a bunch of the Beetlejuice action figures that kind of coincided with the TV show, the animated show, the cartoon. But I again, we're going back to like all the stuff I had when I was a kid. If I still had some of these toys, I'd be rolling in the dough.
You'd be rolling.
Rolling. So they decide that Beetlejuice isn't going to be a good idea. And then Barbara has an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the infamous dinner scene.
Yes, they're just having a light conversation about suicide at dinner. No big deal.
Over a shrimp cocktail.
Yeah.
It's like Otho.
It looks a little suspicious.
Those are the biggest shrimp I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we know why they're so big, but I was
Their
looking
fingers.
I was like, those are prawns, man. They ain't shrimp.
So, like, we haven't talked about this yet, and we need to. The fashion in this movie is top notch. Delia is an icon. So earlier in the movie, she's got a glove as a headband.
Yep. Headband glove.
Then in one scene, you see Charles wearing a red sweater. And then like the next day, Delia is wearing that sweater as pants.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. And then later at this dinner party scene, she only has one glove on. Because the other one was her headband.
Yeah.
I love that.
She's amazing.
She is the MacGyver of fashion.
She is.
And she's hysterical when that song kicks in.
Oh my
like
gosh.
her in that scene, I mean, they're all great, but she carries that scene for everybody.
I can honestly tell you, I never knew who Harry Belafonte was.
Yeah.
Until after seeing this, and then later, you know, you get in life. Well, who actually sings the song "The Dale"?
But they're playing they're playing that music through the whole movie. It's just in the background.
Yeah.
It's so
yeah.
I mean, you got the Danny
Adam
Elfman
likes it.
score
Yeah.
going, but then you got these little songs like this through the whole movie, and then, but man, that Dale, who does it? You and your friends are hanging around, and somebody goes Dale, and everybody kicks into.
Here we go. This is what Jason did. He did the Deo dance.
I remember being a kid, and there was some song. This is the only part I remember, but it was like day old bread or something like that. That's all I can remember. But I'm sure
As kids, we always had to make it our own. We always had to change the lyrics. That whole again, when we were I was talking about, you know, the whole thing. I mean, Delia is hilarious. I mean, I know they're possessing her and making her do it, but her acting is flawless with it. I mean, you really think that she's doing it, but she's being possessed, and
right, because she's reacting as it's happening. That's the funnest part of that whole scene, is everyone looking like, what the hell is going on as they're being,
I think that she's doing it. Yeah,
you know, they're being taken.
Well, the people that are listening to this aren't going to get the full aspect of this. But when they cut to Charles and it says something about a tarantula, and he's like, tarantula.
Yeah, he gets the tarantula. My tarantula.
But this
it's nice seeing that guy. Jeffrey Jones, the guy that plays Charles.
Oh, he's been in a little pieces in movies. Yes.
Yeah, he might come up later, but he's always such a slime ball in so many movies. And it's I love when he gets a chance to just be like, he's got his issues in this movie, but he is a kind of a lovable presence in this movie.
Yeah, and I love that they redid the whole house, but they kept that study exactly the way it was with the books and everything.
You can
Just
do
because he wants to relax. That's and again, an adult thing that I never really would have gotten as a kid. It's like, and I kind of picked up on this when he's having the conversation with his guy in New York, and they're like, "You need to calm down." Like, I think he had a nervous breakdown, and that's why they had to move to Connecticut.
Yeah, they talk about his nerves.
Yeah,
yeah.
Interesting. So yeah,
maybe it could. Well, because he said Delia is Lydia's mom. Maybe when her mom died, maybe he had a breakdown, and then he married Delia. So,
how unlikely was it at the time that you just get this random musical dance scene in the middle of a movie like this? And again, it left an impression on me as a kid. And then when the shrimp come up out and get them, jump scare for sure.
That's a good jump.
Yeah,
forget about the shrimp.
Like I said earlier in this, it's just, dude, that scared the shit out of me as a kid. I mean, you're having fun, all these cracking jokes, the crazy guy doing the Texas car thing, and the next thing you know, monster shrimp come out and grab you by the face. That's terrifying. And I can't believe Jenny. Well, I think, do you even eat shrimp? And we had the whole Lost Boys maggots and stuff like that. So now we have shrimp monster hands.
I didn't eat shrimp when I first saw this movie, so that didn't bother me. And it's fine as an adult. It's
it doesn't look like real food anyway.
Yeah,
no.
It's very exaggerated.
Yeah.
Well, like Josh said, they look like prawns. That's a good shrimp, nice big shrimps.
And I guess they were gonna have more R&B music in this movie. And
I
once
read
Burton took over, they changed it to like this calypso stuff. But Lydia was gonna lip sync to "When a Man Loves a Woman."
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that kind of helps make sense of the Sammy Davis Jr. part of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got Sammy
true.
Davis Jr. You have R&B instead of calypso, and it's a very different experience.
And then was it after this? Everybody goes upstairs and everybody gets to see the attic for the first time.
Yeah, they're
Right
not
after this.
scared. They didn't scare them away. They're actually
Well, I love that now.
enjoying it.
Now Julia has found this as something that she can hone in on. It's like, oh, I can do something with this, almost like inspiration. And she was so blasé about it and didn't want to acknowledge it when Leah brought it to her. And now it's like she's so concerned that they're gone. And she's like, well, if they're not gone, I don't want to scare them away. So she just flips on a dime.
Yeah.
And the fact that dance number and everything didn't freak them out is amazing. How the hell did the Maitlands do that to them though? Like,
it's magic, man. But hey, quick, going back to the thing, O'Hara and Jeffrey Jones were the ones that suggested the calypso music.
Oh, really?
Really?
So that's kind of an interesting fact
Yes.
there. But I mean, who knows how they pulled it off? But it was too entertaining. They're not evil. They're not scary. They're like nice
Right.
people. You know what I mean?
And it's such a letdown to them because they're excited and celebrating, and Adam's like, they're going to be running out any minute. And then it's just, they want you to come downstairs. And it's a gut punch to them because they really think they've gotten somewhere.
Yeah, 'cause that was fantastic. I mean, I would be running out the door. I mean, Shrimp just grabbed me in the face and just had a dance number. I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
But no, let's go upstairs again with the the horror movie thing. Hey, scary. Let's go upstairs.
Yeah, and the dad wants to capitalize on this. He wants to but he wants to buy the city and make it an
the
entire
whole town.
Yeah.
tourist attraction.
But then Beetlejuice decides he's going to interject. And I found out a little bit of information about this. Originally, the snake did not resemble Michael Keaton's face or look at all. So all the snake stuff, they ended up having to go back and reshoot after Michael Keaton had done his parts.
Oh.
I'm kind of interested to see what it would have been before. But I love that it still has his facial features and the hair,
and it's creepy.
Yeah,
dude, it's that's pretty
the Beetlejuice
scary.
Snake is creepy, and I think that's time where the stop motion stuff. Same with the sandworms. it works because it feels otherworldly.
Definitely.
It feels, like it's not from our
It's
reality.
the perfect place for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it just got that herky jerky motion. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And then you get that other iconic line that Jenny said earlier. We've come for your daughter, Chuck.
Yep.
I love that.
But this is when Lydia finally sees that this shit is serious and can get serious. And for some reason, it just makes her want to be dead.
Yeah.
The teenage angst in her in this movie.
Oh, man. She's got a bunch of it. But,
Real drama queen.
It's also really touching. I don't think that I picked up on this until this watch. Like, the Maitlands' desire to have a child. Like, they feel very strongly toward Lydia. They want to protect her. They, immediately latch on to her when they know that she can see them. And they develop a friendship and a caring for each other. And Lydia loves them so much that she wants to be dead to be with them because she relates more to them than she does to her own family.
Yeah.
It's really sweet, especially considering the ending
Yeah.
of the movie. I just thought that it stood out to me this time as a touching.
Jenny, maybe that's why they, I was asking earlier, why are they staying here? Just to keep their house from getting redecorated? Maybe that's why they have unfinished business, because they never got to be parents. You know what I mean? I think maybe you figured it out.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Cracked this wide open.
Yeah, but that's the conversation they're having when they go back to see Juno, and they they do the things to their faces again. It's very Tim Burton.
I love that. As
looks so great. And who was thinking of these kind of things at that time? We have a segment here that is called "If You Like This, You Might Like That," which I kind of wanted to introduce in this episode. But in watching Beetlejuice and thinking about it, I'm only going to be able to recommend Tim Burton movies because there's really nothing that really compares to that style, in my opinion.
Nope, it's unique.
And people really haven't tried to rip it off, I don't think. I mean, Tim Burton
successfully. That's for sure.
And when we get on to Batman and the things where he gets bigger budgets, he tends to tone down that stuff. But I love that he just went for it in this one, and it all looks amazing. But when they do that to their faces and they're going back to their house, Barb's just like, I want to be with Lydia, and they've made that connection. And I love when Alec Baldwin can't get his face to go back to normal.
And he's got the long nose when he thinks he's got it.
But the thing is, we're there. We actually skipped one of the funniest part of the movies, the Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, I was going to go back.
Totally missed it, dude. That's the 11-year-old thing of what's going on. You don't know.
Yep,
and
I had no idea.
Yeah, Juno summons a whorehouse to distract Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
The whorehouse was my idea.
Well, he said he hasn't gotten laid in 600 years, so I think she knew what he needed. So
go ahead, make my millennium.
Here I come, baby.
Yeah. There's another one where you're gonna need a bigger quote. But yeah, the look of that is great. I mean, that looks like something you'd see in a Rob Zombie movie now.
It does. Not in a movie. One of the original White Zombie music
video. Yeah,
that would be a White Zombie music video with all the girls with the blue skin and the reddish hair and being revealing and stuff like that. But yeah, but as 11-year-old Jason, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
I just thought it was funny when he's got the spike sticking out of him and he's doing the whole little dance here I go, baby, and he's sitting there doing that little dance on the way up there. Laugh my ass off. That's the only part I got out of it.
You just made me realize something. So when the thorns come out of him,
he's horny.
He's literally horny.
Yep,
exactly. Well, remember when he gets up, he says something about, "Oh, this has got me like an itch" or something like that, And he's sitting there talking. He's got all these horns sticking out of him.
What a perv!
And then while the Maitlands are gone, Lydia has her first encounter with him with Beetlejuice at the Dante's Inferno, and that's where we get our other famous line: "I'm the ghost with the most, babe." And he's a salesman, I gotta say.
Yeah, he's a used car salesman.
He's a used car salesman from Texas. We've established that.
I guess I do understand the overwhelming urge for him to get married and all of that stuff. He's just a creeper. But I love when the Maitlands
doesn't he state that he has to get married to get out of quote unquote here? Or
yeah, well,
he's trying to.
He uses the illegal alien thing. At the end, when she goes to summon him, he goes, yeah, he's like, well, I'm what you would call an illegal alien. So in order for me to get out of here, I got to get married. It's very brief, but I caught it.
Do you think he's lying, or do you think?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. He's just playing on her naivety, naivete.
Okay, well, I thought there was some kind of magical rule, even this time in my head. So, but that makes sense. He's a liar. He's a cheat. That
I mean, he's doing anything he can to just get out and do his own thing. I definitely got the creeper vibes off Beetlejuice this time around. And it's funny that you said earlier that he was just this coolest character when you were a kid. But what do you think it was with us as kids that made us think he was so cool? Just that he was just so crazy bonkers and whatnot, and we didn't understand what his motivations were.
He was like a big kid.
He's like a cartoon. He does whatever he wants. So we think that's cool. Kids want to do whatever they want, you know. But now we're like, oh, she's an underage girl, and he's talking about their wedding night, and this is getting uncomfortable.
See, I don't know if I thought that he was cool when I was little. Like, it was funny, but it was also like he was the bad guy. He was the scary thing. Like,
is this Cry Little Sister all over again?
No,
No, I completely understand. Like, I got the feeling that he was the bad guy.
Well, it's more of a boy thing to like, eating bugs and being gross and grossing people out. That's like a little boy thing.
Honking your crotch.
Yeah. But the reason that Lydia is up there desperate to talk to him is because they have another set of guests over, and they're pitching their, paranormal tourist attraction, and they have to prove that they're ghosts. The pictures aren't doing it. So Otho has devised a way to bring them back, make them see them.
And they're turning the hardware store into a roach motel or something.
Oh, yes.
Sponsored by Decon.
Insect Zoo.
Insect Zoo. Yep. That's it. Yeah.
But what's happening to the Maitlands is the effect is very effective.
Yeah, the de-aging effect. Yeah, I actually wrote a note about that too.
I mean,
they're aging.
Horrifying.
They're rapidly aging.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost as like I kind of got from this that now that they can see them, they're decomposed, like they're truly dead. Like that's kind of what I pulled out of it this time. Yeah. So they're decomposing. They're actually becoming the dead, which I could be completely wrong about that, but that's just what I got from it watching it this time.
Yeah, and when they are the Maitlands are decomposing there and that kind of stuff, if they completely disappear or die, will they end up in the room of lost souls?
That's what I think, because they said it was ghosts that were exorcised.
Yeah.
It's death for the dead.
Yeah.
It's death. Yeah, death for, as a janitor said, death for the dead.
Okay.
Which is so scary.
Yeah,
like that really scared me when I was little.
Yeah, when her foot starts curling up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Drawing in when her shoe falls off.
She looks, the shoe falling off is bad. And then her face just looks so sad.
Yeah,
Gina Davis
so
has such a
sad.
happy face and such a, and she just looks so sad.
He grabs her hand and it starts falling apart.
Yes.
Yeah, when it
crumbling hand.
Crumbles, it's a very good effect.
Yeah.
And that when she runs upstairs to make the deal with Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Well, before all this starts, I love her line when Otho is talking about how he's going to do this seance and summon them. And she's freaking out, and all of a sudden she goes, wait, what am I worried about, Otho? You can't even change a tire. It's good. And the way she delivers it is very funny.
Yes.
I mean, this is where it really shines for Beetlejuice. It's like, this is what you wanted the entire movie, is all these hijinks. But this is also one of those things that's kind of like it's kind of like comparable to Jaws. It's like, I think the reason Beetlejuice works on the level it works is because we don't have a lot of Beetlejuice in it. He's truly left to give you the good moments, and that's that. And I like that we follow the Maitlands and whatnot through this movie, and not necessarily Beetlejuice, which is where the cartoon went and all of that stuff.
Yeah, he shows up and becomes a carnival game right off the bat.
Step right up.
Just drink. And, people, all the guests are drawn to him and his show. And the two guests who are there don't realize that while they're watching his whole spiel, that they are becoming the carnival game.
And they're murdered?
I am guessing
they fly through the roof.
Murdered. Like, if
murdered.
you got shot into the ceiling,
Severe head
you
trauma.
would die.
Severe head trauma for sure.
Yeah.
And he weirdly spares Otho.
Yeah.
He just
turns him into a fashion victim.
That's what I was going to say.
That's the worst punishment for Otho.
Otho's fate that's worse than death is being a fashion victim. Yeah, I did not catch on to that until this watch.
Same, yeah.
Because
that noise he makes when it happens.
Yeah. Because when I was a kid, I just thought like he stripped him down to his pajamas and it was an embarrassing thing. Like,
yeah, because we didn't know what blue leisure suits were.
Yeah. So,
but I do have one thing to point out. When he comes out as, I call it Carousel Beetlejuice, did you notice his ears?
Yeah.
They're bat
wings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was like,
And if you notice on top of the umbrella thing, there's like a skeleton looking thing that looks like Jack Skellington.
Yeah, and apparently Tim Burton had been doodling that character, what came to be Jack Skellington for years.
Well, you think about it, and he comes out in the
made its
black
way.
and white striped suit.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Everything.
I mean, that becomes such a staple Burton thing anyway, just the black and white stripes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I found out in a little bit of research about Tim Burton for this that he worked for Disney for quite some time as an animator. And he worked on the original short film for Frankenweenie and did that through Disney. And when he cut it and I don't know if they released it or showed it, Disney fired him and claimed that he had like stolen funds from them to do this movie that was so bleak and bizarre and then Disney wanted nothing to do with it. I found that pretty interesting. And apparently he doesn't have a very good relationship with Disney.
Yeah.
But he goes back to them later.
Yeah, he does. Well, of course, now he's making
later,
money.
like
and,
decades later.
Oh, people do like the macabre and the black and white
stuff.
and Universal horror movies and stuff. And so
the Lydia's red dress. There's apparently an old rhyme about wedding dress colors. It says "married in red, better off dead."
Oh.
Kind of interesting.
It's good luck in some cultures to get married in red.
Interesting.
But this is where I really got the pervy stuff from Beetlejuice. His just complete infatuation with wanting to marry Lydia, which I could understand from a young boy's point of view at that time. But this is, I don't know how old Michael Keaton was, but
he's thousands of years old.
Yeah, I mean, Beetlejuice, who knows? And the fact that he's wanting to marry this 16-year-old is a little off kilter there.
Yeah, he's a creep.
Yeah. You got the creepy, his leisure suit that has every endless pockets of snakes and every other thing.
Yes, it's
dead
like
rats.
crushed velvet.
And that's like a cartoon, right? Like Looney Tunes or whatever, like reaching into their pockets, pulling out crazy things. You know, he's like just a living cartoon, you know, which is why kids love him. That's how he got his own cartoon, because, you know, he's just this crazy character.
Yeah, and then you got the Maitlands trying to fight back to send him back, and you can't save Beetlejuice to save their lives. And
I love the zipper mouth.
Yes.
The
I like the
plate.
dancing teeth. I like the dancing teeth when he rips his teeth out of his mouth. That's one of my favorite scenes.
I really love the little priest guy. Like, the fireplace opens up and it becomes all angular, and the little priest guy wanders out. And he's so little and cute.
Do you, Beetle? Nobody says the B word.
I read that Keaton. I'm hitting the notes here, guys. I'm just trying to get them out of the way. Keaton used the character Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as an inspiration here, and that blew my mind.
I absolutely see it. I absolutely see it.
Now that you say that, holy shit! Oh man. fits.
I couldn't let us skip by that one. I had to.
Oh
see
yeah,
that one, but
Jenny has no idea what we're talking about.
Anything that involves Texas and chainsaw.
And Texas Chainsaw 2. He is so irritating.
Yeah.
But
we can get to that movie in a later episode.
Absolutely.
It's not one of my favorites either, but it is memorable for certain things.
But it's fun that all they have to do is say his name 3 times.
Yeah.
And it seems simple, but he keeps stopping everybody from doing it.
Which they could have said his name 3 times at any given point of all that. Like why they're saying his name so slow. Jenny pointed that out while we were watching. She's like, you could have said his name 3 times by now.
All right, and what's the deal? I don't know if y'all have noticed this. I mean, I know we're trying to get on to, but what's with the 3 times? Because, doing my research and I started thinking about this, we got to say Beetlejuice 3 times. You got to knock on the door 3 times. But even in, urban legends, the whole Candyman thing, you got to say it 3 times. Bloody Mary, say it 3 times.
Candyman was 5 times, by the way.
Was it 5?
Yeah.
Was it 5? Okay.
3 is something that comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, the Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity, yeah.
3 is just everywhere. But there are other examples of 3s in this. Like, what is she? She says something. What does she say? Home or something? Go
home.
Yeah. She has home.
That's right.
Everything's 3.
That happens a few times in this movie.
So the way they save the day here and rescue Lydia from Beetlejuice, and he does his magic trick and throws her to the wasteland again. And I didn't touch on this. So when they introduce Beetlejuice and the model, when they're, asking for his qualifications and everything, and he's all up on them, he grabs hold of Barbara, and he sees that she's got the yellow sand on her. And he says, "Oh, you've been to Saturn. I've been to Saturn. Sandworms. You hate them, right? I hate them myself." So
Saturn.
I could be completely wrong, but that's what I got from this and watching it the past couple of times. And I didn't get a chance to do my research on it. But I think when they are in that place, they're actually on Saturn. And that's just from what I get from.
If there's anything on the newspaper, because the newspaper talks about sandworm attacks have increased or something like that.
I looked over the headlines that are on the newspaper, and I didn't really see anything that coincided with anything else in the movie.
And Beetlejuice is named after a star, so we've already got some
on Orion's belt
astronomical.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's starting to connect. They don't really spell it out for you, but
and then when they go to this different planet or whatever, they even mentioned you've been gone for hours.
Yeah.
When they bring them back, you was it 3 hours or something? I forgot what it said.
It's like Interstellar.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what's got me confused about the way they kind of wrap this whole thing up. Is he sends her off to Saturn, he sends Adam to the model. So she's in Saturn for what I think the timeline would say she should have been gone for a couple of hours. I mean, she's probably gone the same amount of time Adam was when he had walked out of the house earlier. And then all of a sudden, she's just crashing through the roof with a sandworm. It eats Beetlejuice, and that's that. Like, how the hell did she get back there from Saturn?
Right. It's a major Deus Ex Machina there at the end. And, it is what it is.
Right.
It's a movie.
Don't take this movie too seriously.
Yep.
But I remember as a kid kind of having a question about that. I kind of felt like, how did they do that? Because they
Forgetting the time stuff. Even just how did she tame a sandworm?
Yeah.
Maybe
she
it was
should have
from
been dressed with Mad Max style, like she had been there forever and learned how to train them. That would have
maybe it was from when she slapped him on the nose earlier in the movie, and it was like, "Whoa, okay, hey, this bitch means business." She's taming the sandworm.
But that's another aspect of the movie that went on into the animated series is they used the sandworms a lot.
Oh, they were all in. I love the cartoon.
Now, we talked briefly about Delia hating the style of the house when they came in, and she wanted everything gone. Why did she keep their wedding clothes? Why did she have them magically have them there?
They were just in the closet. They hadn't done anything with that closet
I
yet.
think
It was
she's
too small.
just a weirdo.
Maybe she wanted to wear the wedding dress as like a headband.
I'd have to go. I'd have to go back and look at it. But were those things in the study that maybe Charles didn't change and he just left them there?
I don't think they were.
Well, they find them in the closet.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she kept them on purpose for something.
Maybe.
She makes something out of nothing.
I mean, they hadn't done anything
MacGyver
with the attic
fashion.
yet either, so there were parts of the house that hadn't been.
Very true.
messed with.
Exactly.
I do love that he gets into the little model car.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yes.
drives off the model, and
because as a kid, that's exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to drive your toys around.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
like
Jason did it.
Is that what you did, Jason?
Dude, I tried to do that with every little remote control car that I ever had. I want to drive it. How does it land and keep going? And eventually, after many tries, you do it. And also, your mom and dad getting mad for, hey, I broke this one. Because I kept driving it off the table. So I told you, there was something in here, but it wasn't nothing extravagant like hanging off a bridge or anything. But yeah, doing the whole car thing.
You tried to summon the dead at some point, but I guess I was wrong.
Maybe.
Well, Jenny wanted to talk about Alec Baldwin. There was something we hadn't.
Oh, right.
I do. Okay, so when I was little, I probably didn't have any recognition of who actors were really.
Yeah.
Like from movie to movie until I got a little older.
Mm-hmm.
So Alec Baldwin, looking at it now, is so not Alec Baldwin to me in this movie because he's so different that when I think of this movie, I think that it's Bill Pullman and not Alec Baldwin because it looks like him kinda.
He does kind of look like him.
Yeah.
I read that Alec Baldwin didn't care for this movie, that he does not like his performance in it, or
You know what's really funny, and that you wanted to bring that up, and I didn't write a note about it, but I remember when this came on and seeing Alec Baldwin on the screen. I don't associate Alec Baldwin with Beetlejuice, which usually you find an actor that's famous for a movie and you associate it with that, like Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton's been all kinds of other things. I can associate him with Batman. I can associate him with this. I can associate him with all kinds of things. I never go back to Beetlejuice with Alec Baldwin. Like watching 30 Rock or any of the newer stuff he's done, it never crosses my mind that he was our lead in Beetlejuice. I thought of that while we were watching it.
Dude, I always go to Hunt for Red October.
See, I haven't seen that but once.
Yeah, I've seen it many times.
Movie.
But
he really doesn't.
like,
his character doesn't have much to do.
No, he doesn't. But I don't think he really needs to, though. I mean, he absolutely
he doesn't
works.
need to, but that might be why you don't really think of it. So much. But and he looks so different now. Just
and then it's after this movie you realize there are Baldwins everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could easily get the Baldwins.
These people are all related.
Yes, it's like that's a Baldwin. That's a Baldwin. Wait, oh wait, they're okay. They all look kind of the same and talk this. Oh, right, they're related. Oh.
And then we get our closing.
Such a happy ending. Love it. Everyone's happy.
So, I mean, they decide that they're gonna, coexist, and they've got Winona Ryder as their pseudo daughter, and
it's sweet that the parents have sort of embraced this.
Yeah.
And
they sharing custody of her, I guess. We get her Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You get her the other days of the week.
Yeah. I don't know why. I guess this would be a lot of fun if you're floating in the air and dancing around. I always kind of found that a little weird that was your reward at the end of the day.
No,
we're going to float you.
Yeah,
we're going to let you float in the air
float.
for a little while.
Dude, who as a kid didn't want to fly, man?
Yeah.
So getting to float and that goes back to what I said earlier about the whole magical powers. Now all of a sudden he can look at a record player and it starts playing and make her float through the air. And they could barely do ghost stuff, and now they can do that.
Right.
So
yeah, they're getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we get the PA speaker going downward into the lobby. And we see our fun buddy Beetlejuice hanging out.
Yeah, that's the add-on scene they put in just to get a little more screen time for him. I love that he's just being cocky and the whole switcheroo with the number.
Yeah.
Well, looks like I'm next. He's just so cocky about it. It's great. But the ending scene where they do let her fly and the pots start jumping and the chair starts rocking, I got overwhelmed with joy when that started playing. Just something about the way they end on that, and my being a kid and not wanting to see the movie at first, and then the way it ends is just so happy, and it has a silver lining to it. And I welled up a little bit when the music kicked in and everything. And not that this movie is anything that special to me per se, but it's like it just reminded me of simpler times when I was thrilled by the fact that I just saw a movie that I loved, you know, and that it made me feel things about a movie that I've never really felt before, because I'd never seen anything like this before. And then, you know, the music was so unique to that movie. It's got this, you know, deep, dark undertone stuff by Danny Elfman, and then you've got the Day-O music and all of that kind of, you know, gives a juxtaposition to it. But I just think, you know, I think Tim Burton went on to do a few better movies, but this was really him just kind of sticking his foot in the door and saying, here's what I've got to offer you, Hollywood. You can take it or leave it. And luckily we got to see more from him. But yeah, I couldn't believe how like just joyful I felt when the ending of the movie kicked in and whatnot.
And that ending is more magical than ghostly or spooky. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It feels like a Disney movie, like you know, magical, like the fairy godmother doing things, having things moving,
like with
around,
the football players that come back from the bus crash and they're dancing on the stairs.
How the heck
like,
did they get there?
Well, you don't know how long it's been now.
Aren't they haunting the school bus or something?
Yeah. But even you're talking about being the way it ends. It's such. I mean, you can even look at Lydia.
Yeah.
Color in her skin.
Yes, I was gonna say
her hair is done up nice.
Yep.
She looks like she's enjoying life.
She's happy.
You know, she's so happy now. She can be herself and just. And I mean, it is. If you think about it, it hits you in the emotions.
Yeah,
very much.
I mean, that's what makes this Tim Burton stuff. You know, a lot of his films play in this sort of sadness, and you know, it can feel cathartic to feel sad with someone and then watch a character kind of get through that hard time and feel better. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think he connected with a lot of people with that stuff, that just really dark, like suicidal type thoughts and just super dark depression, you know.
So many people can relate
just
to
connect
that.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody connects with that.
It just lets you know that, hey, you know, things might be dark right now, but they can get better, and they probably will get better. And look at Lydia; she's floating in the air and having a great time. Listen to some more Harry Belafonte. Yeah, I mean, that's great.
So, and that's the conclusion.
That's Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Bravo.
Yes.
I mean, it has its flaws. I'm not willing to concede that this is a perfect movie by any means, but it just holds a magical spot in my brain because, again, with the whole being the first movie, I recall going to the theater and being genuinely surprised by it. Is it worth a rental, Jenny?
Yes.
Jason?
Always.
Eric?
Forever.
Yes.
Right. Now, I want to briefly talk about the sequel that was planned for this. Does anybody know about what they had initially written to do for a sequel for this?
Isn't it where he goes to Hawaii or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii.
Which a lot of people have commented on that this would have been terrible. They're so glad that they didn't do it and all of this stuff. But after watching this and seeing that blend of the Danny Elfman stuff and the Calypso music and all of that, I think a Beetlejuice in Hawaii thing could work.
Well, Tim Burton playing with that 60s Hawaii aesthetic and that surf movies and stuff like that, that could definitely be cool.
Yeah.
So a part of me kind of wants to see that. And I know they're never going to do it now. And there's been all these things about they're going to make a sequel. I don't think they need to.
No.
I think this is just one of those perfect offshoot movies that's it's here. It marks a moment in time, and it is what it is.
I think they need to make a full horror reboot of Beetlejuice.
I would,
in the vein of something like the Evil Dead remake or something like that. Just
go
super dark.
Yeah.
I would go for that.
I would.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
You wouldn't?
No, I could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh,
no, I would. I would absolutely go for that. I mean, I would love to see what they would do with that. I can't, can't say if it would be quote unquote good or not, but I would definitely be down to see if somebody wanted to try that. All right, Almost Famous.
Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name? That one with that guy who was in that movie that was out last year.
All right. We got quite a handful of people in this one. You got Michael Keaton. This was Winona Ryder's first movie. Catherine O'Hara, I don't know what she had done before this.
Well, she had...
Alec Baldwin, I don't know where Alec Baldwin was at this point in time as far as actors go. But, I mean...
But they're all too big for this.
They would say, remember,
yeah.
Almost
to me,
Famous.
there's one person that stands out, and that's Jeffrey Jones.
Yep, absolutely.
That dude was in so many 80s movies.
Let's talk about
Howard
the famous one. Howard the Duck. When I see his face...
Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah. But see, that's where I disagree. I think it was Catherine O'Hara because Jeffrey Jones went on and did more movies, and Jeffrey Jones has an iconic role in Ferris Bueller as the principal, where she just went on to kind of do Home Alone 1 and 2.
Okay.
No, not true.
She did all that stuff with... Yeah,
no,
go ahead, Jenny.
With Tim Burton, she's a voice actor.
Yeah, but I say a voice, but you don't see her.
It doesn't matter.
She just won an Emmy.
Yeah, she's hugely famous.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, she's part of what's going on today. I mean, we don't watch Schitt's Creek, but she's gotten accolades for that. And
but see, I don't watch that show, but to me, I knew more of Jeffrey Jones.
Well,
yeah, I mean, in the 80s for sure, he
because
was
of
in
Ferris Bueller and Howard the Duck. I mean.
Yeah.
I see.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned to love that.
Although
movie.
he was also in he was in a TV show for a while too that I'm forgetting. But
wait, didn't he have a short bit in Devil's Advocate too?
Maybe.
Yes, he was in Devil's Advocate.
Well, I'm going to blow all of you away and say that Glenn Shaddix is Almost Famous, guys.
Yeah,
Otho is our guy.
Dude, he rocked it in Demolition Man.
Demolition Man's the only other thing you know that fucker for. Don't lie.
I didn't see Demolition Man until I was much older, and I don't remember that he was in that. So just going off my experience,
he was the assistant.
The dad is the guy who you just kept seeing everywhere.
It's a guy that I've seen in so many things, but I would never remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It's cool that you did mention Glenn Shaddix. That they actually played Deo at his funeral when he passed away.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw
in real life, when he passed away, they played that at his funeral.
That's nice.
That's freaking nice.
But yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Jones. Whenever I see his face, I just see the Howard the Duck character. So,
we can agree to disagree.
We can agree to disagree.
We can have more than one.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Who would like to start tonight?
I'll go.
Go for it, Eric.
The good. I'm going to say all the giant miniature stuff. So anytime they're playing in that giant sandbox of rubber grass and all the fake props and all that kind of stuff, as a kid, I just fell in love with that stuff. Still love it. I mean, I would replace my own lawn with that grass right now if it was something that would last in the sun and weather. I would happily do that. The bad, I'm going to point to some of the bad effect shots, just mostly the compositing stuff. All the makeup work and practical stuff is all great and fun, but there's some pretty ugly. I mean, even his head shrinking looks pretty rough now. All that stuff, just the edges are pretty ragged. And then the ugly, I'm going with Beetlejuice is a nasty pervert. The horse house, the whorehouse, the groping, the underage bride. He's just a little too crass. I don't think that holds up as far as just a modern viewer.
Okay,
so that's my ugly. But that being said, I think Michael Keaton is amazing as Beetlejuice, and all that stuff's spectacular. It just hasn't aged very well, I guess.
Yeah, only one person could play Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Jason, you want to go?
Sure. Oh, my good is a twofer: the score and the effects, the makeup and effects.
You cheated again. You cheated last week too.
I'm cheating, dude, because you know what? I can break the rules because I'm Jason. But because I mean, those two things make this movie: is the music and the the practical and makeup effects. I mean, like I said, they went on to win an Oscar for the effects in this. I think they still hold up today. And of course, Danny Elfman has gone on to do so many other, scores in many of our movies that we grew up.
I think he's only not done, I think, 2 of Tim Burton's movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And he even works with Sam Raimi. He did Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, he does a lot of stuff, not just with Tim Burton.
Yeah. He gets around. So that's my good is the two for on that. My bad is I kind of wish there was a little more Beetlejuice in this movie. I know, like you mentioned about the whole Jaws thing, but I kind of wish we got just a little more about him. I mean, we don't need to know his whole backstory or how he got that way. It would be kind of cool maybe later, but I kind of wish I kind of got to see more Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice during the movie.
That's fair.
But my ugly is the ongoing talk of the sequel with the original cast that Tim Burton has mentioned, Winona Ryder has mentioned as of late, even Michael Keaton has. And I kind of, like Josh said earlier, was like it really didn't need a sequel, but the fact that they keep talking about it with the original cast, it's like playing with my emotions.
Yeah.
Is it am I happy that we are, or do we really need it? And let's either say yes or no, and then if they do say yes, is it going to be good? So that's my ugly, is just the ongoing talk of the sequel.
Yeah.
Imagine a Beetlejuice sequel in the visual style of Alice in Wonderland with all the CGI junk and all that kind of stuff. That sounds that's awful.
No, I mean, they would have to still do it with practical effects. They would have to go old
if
school.
you're going to do it, you better dial that shit back. All that crazy shit.
Exactly. But that's me. Good, bad, and ugly for Jason. That's it.
You want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go. The good is just the design of everything. This being the first Tim Burton movie that I saw, everything becomes instantly recognizable as his style for props and backgrounds and everything like that. And going kind of along with that, just kind of a twofer, is just Delia's fashion. It's amazing. For the bad, we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to say Lydia's hair for 90% of the movie. Because when she's dressed up in her like full on goth, she does this thing with her hair where she puts half of it up and teases the shit out of it so that it looks like a feathered hat. And I kind of like her spiky bangs. I like that. But the feathered hair sticking up like that, I do not like it. She has a couple shots where her hair is down and more natural, and she looks fine like that.
The spiky bangs look like when people dress up and try to dress up like a cartoon or like an anime character. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Like, yeah, I imagine like them using a reference of some kind of drawing of a little girl with bangs, and you know what I'm saying? It kind of feels like those spiky bangs really feels like an attempt to look like a
younger,
or look like an animated.
And
character.
I think the tease hair is more like a gothic peacock. Yes.
Yes.
She's going for a gothic peacock look. That's it.
Yeah.
New hairstyle. I just named it.
And the ugly. So I was gonna say Beetlejuice's crude rapiness, but I will go with kind of the cavalier attitude towards suicide and death in general in this movie. They make jokes about if you commit suicide, you're a civil servant, and they're just lightheartedly discussing it over dinner. Lydia doesn't seem to think it's that big of a deal to commit suicide. Like, oh, I'm just going to go kill myself and live with these people that I like.
Yeah, it's never tonally really. No one really reacts to it when she says that to that level. They go, "Oh no, don't do that," But it's like that's a pretty big deal. That's a cry for help.
Yeah, it's like my life is a dark room, one big dark room.
You're gonna need a bigger quote.
And even the realtor who may or may not be family, you know, they come and they like stare at the house all in their morning clothes, but she's scoping that place out to sell it. And she shows up when they're moving in and she's just like, oh yes, terrible, you know, very sad. And she's there to pitch her interior decorating services. Like, it's just like, oh yes, all these perfectly healthy young people have died and not a big deal.
Just pay me.
Yeah. So that's mine.
Come on, Josh.
I mean, I'm gonna echo a lot of what everybody said. I mean, the production design is amazing. It's something. It's one of those things where even as a kid, you recognized it from that point forward. You know, he delved into it a little bit with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but here's where he really got a chance to shine. And I think it's a really good balance of old classic style things mixed with the new modern goth style, and I think it balances it very well. The bad, I'm going to say the effects. They don't look so great nowadays. But I mean, it's the practical in-shot stuff looks amazing. It's the overcuts and the things like that just kind of don't hold up as well now. And my ugly is just going to be the plot holes that I seem to have found with this movie. You know, just, you know, how are they making them dance? How can they see them? And then when they couldn't see them in the beginning, you know, how did Barb get back with the sandworm? Those kind of that would be my ugly, is like maybe they could have worked on that stuff a little bit better.
Eric, you're supposed to solve those plot holes.
Come on, Eric.
Magic.
You do. Yes, magic.
It's all magic. Snap of the fingers. It happens.
No. We're dealing with the supernatural, so who are we to try to make sense of it?
All right. Well, I mean, that's the bit of our discussion about Beetlejuice and our almost famous people and good, the bad, and the ugly. Now we're going to get to our little section called Staff Picks.
Attention for this week's Staff Picks. Attention, this week's Staff Picks.
In my staff pick for this week, I have been jamming. I thought it was their new record, but apparently I'm just behind the times. I've been listening to Tame Impala's last record. Their
latest record.
Latest record. There you go. The Slow Rush. That's the name of it. It's escaped me there, but I have been jamming the shit out of that record. And I knew nothing of Tame Impala before this. I mean, I'd heard their name. I'd never listened to any of their music, but Jenny can attest that I have been bumping that shit ever since I discovered it.
He dances.
Have you listened to the album before that?
I've only listened to brief little snippets of songs, so I haven't.
I love that album. So definitely give that one a go.
I'll be going back and discovering that stuff. But,
spin that baby up on your Spotify phone.
Yeah. So the Tame Impala Slow Rush album is what I'm jamming right now.
I can't understand 90% of what he says, but I like it.
It grooves really well.
It's got to be
groovy,
and you can dance to it.
That's right. Jenny,
and I'm sitting here not knowing anything you're talking about.
Maybe you should check it out. That's why it's a staff pick.
That's right.
Staff picks are so great.
Something new, exactly.
My staff pick is also musically related for someone who is also behind the times. Churches, the band.
The chicken?
I say chicken? I'm hungry.
Nah. Recently kind of got into them. Had heard their Bury It song, and I think the only reason that I know of that song is because they redid it with Hayley Williams from Paramore, and I love her. And so I didn't, I kind of heard some of their songs, but didn't really, give it a go. I kind of have to find music in my own time. But they're...
Or I just push it on you and be like, you need to listen to this because it's good.
Or he just starts playing stuff and I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And then I like it. But their latest record, which is from 2018, is really good. I've been listening to it a lot, and I would highly recommend.
Jason, staff pick?
Well, I'm not going to do music because I actually did have some. I got a couple things, but since everybody's doing music, I'm going to change it up a little. I'm going to stick with the Beetlejuice thing here. I'm going to talk about New York Comic Con 2020 Virtual Con 4 because if you're into the whole collecting world, and I know Josh and Jenny are, the whole Funko Pop craze that's been going on for years. But as of tomorrow, we get some a new Beetlejuice pop that is GameStop exclusive. I myself have a number of Beetlejuice pops because, like we just got to be talking for the last couple hours, I love Beetlejuice. So, and I collect plenty of these. But yeah, I would, if you're into any of that big thing, the New York City Comic-Con virtual thing, is I think it's everything. A lot of their stuff goes on sale tomorrow morning, really early, and then of course in their corresponding stores for whatever exclusive each store has. But check it out if you want to get you a new Beetlejuice pop. That's it.
Eric.
All right. For me, I'm going to go with the documentary on Andre the Giant on HBO Max. It's called Andre the Giant, and it's
it's good.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's good.
I'm amazed by how much old footage of Andre the Giant they have. I mean, we're talking when he's like young, like teenager young in Europe, and it's just amazing. His story is so interesting, and
it's just kind of sad too.
And it is sad, and there's lots of great interviews and famous wrestlers and people in the wrestling business. Some of the people from Princess Bride are interviewed as well, and it's a great thing. And I always loved wrestling. I don't really watch it so much anymore, but the whole business of wrestling is fascinating to me, of professional wrestling, and that documentary serves as a nice history lesson of professional wrestling and how it became a national thing. And it's a very interesting watch about a very interesting person. So
yeah, because he was kind of there at the beginning when it really started to blow up.
Yeah. And he was kind of exactly, and before Hulk Hogan and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah. Yes, and for our movie year 1988, he beats Hulk Hogan for the championship in the first primetime wrestling match on television.
Yeah.
So definitely a legend, and
I've heard good things about that documentary as well. I mean, I've heard that you don't necessarily have to be a wrestling fan to enjoy it.
No, you don't. Definitely not.
And I mean, most people would associate him with wrestling. I associate him with The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
And that's
I love Fezzik. I mean,
they talk Fezzik's about that in the documentary.
Right.
Anybody want a peanut?
And just that dude was so big. And like when we get to the Princess Bride episode, I definitely got some things to talk about with him. But like the dude, just the size of his hands. I mean, we'll talk about that when we get to that show. But yeah, I'll watch it at some point. But
I've actually watched a few of the wrestling documentaries, and I'm not a wrestling fan because it shows us some of the goods and bad things these guys went through to do their sport.
The business is fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Like just the way it works, how brutal it is, how hard it is. I think there's a degree of like art and performance. Obviously there's performance, but I think there's an art and sort of a romance to that form of wrestling that used to be like a traveling show, like a circus. Like a circus show, like a sideshow that, kind of became this very unique thing. It's it's sports entertainment. There's no other real example of that. And is it corny at times and stupid sometimes? Yes, but I don't know. It has so much history. It's really if you watch the documentary, it gets into it, and it's very interesting. I mean,
cool. I'll definitely check it out.
So,
check it out.
I recommend that.
Well, that's going to do it for episode 6, Beetlejuice, guys. We're over the hump.
We did it.
Victory.
As long as we can keep it up after this, we'll be good. So that'll do it for us this week. If you like what you're listening to, if you've listened to our previous shows, please give us a rating, give us a like, give us a subscribe wherever you get your podcast. It definitely would help us out a bit. And please share with your friends. If you like what you're listening to and you think you got friends that would like what we're talking about, please share.
Share.
So next week we're going to continue the Friday Night Fright Fest here at the VHS Files. We're going to talk another horror comedy, and next week we're talking The Monster Squad.
Yes,
Wolfman's got nards.
So, and unfortunately, they're releasing a documentary about it after we talk about it. So I didn't want to push it back. We would have ended up pushing it into November before I could get a chance to watch that. I would have loved to have watched it before we watched it and talked about it on here, but I am looking forward to that. But yeah, Monster Squad was another one that left an impression as a kid, and we may have some conflicting views on what is a better movie coming up in that one.
Oh yes, we will.
But
arguments may be abound.
But all right, guys, that'll do it for us here at the VHS Files, and we will see you next week. As always, be kind, rewind.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Later. It's over. You've been listening to the VHS Files podcast.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe and drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast.
It was fun.
Email us your comments, questions, and movie suggestions at the.vhsfiles@gmail.com.
I've seen one too many movies.
Follow us on Facebook at VHS Files Podcast.
Don't you blame the movies!
On Instagram at VHS.files.
Movies don't create psychos!
On Twitter at VHS_files.
Movies make psychos more creative!
And head over to our YouTube channel at the VHS Files Podcast for more content. Thanks for listening.